Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us for episode 3 of our Young Voices series. I'm Mario Argote. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer at Uptest Sports, and we're really thrilled to be joined today by some student athletes from Uptest Sports member program Beat the Streets in New York City. They've taken some time today to talk about some issues that have been really at the forefront recently in the country, at a time when the country is now hopefully reckoning with some renewed force with the history of systemic racism and social injustice in this country. The student athletes from Beat the Streets New York City wanted to share some of their thoughts about issues such as access to sports, ensuring that kids in all communities have a variety of sports that they can play, not just a few choice sports, to talk about questions like what is the role of professional athletes and other athletes to speak up at times like these, and to share their thoughts about what the sport of wrestling has meant to them in their lives. For many of you, on this Zoom call, you'll know that Uptest Sports is the country's first and only national service program for sports in the country. We've been privileged to be supported by AmeriCorps over the last 10 years of our existence, and at the core, really, of the founding of Uptest Sports was this goal and this drive to even the playing field for all kids. So this is a subject matter that is really dear and near to our hearts, and one we think is really important. We're really happy and lucky to have Unique Jones as our moderator for today's episode. Unique is an Uptest Sports coach. She's currently coaching at Youth Sports Mentoring Partnership, which is another great Uptest Sports member program in Philadelphia. And before that, she was a coach at Beat the Streets Philly, where she coached wrestling, which was, a pretty sort of natural progression for her, since Unique also wrestled in high school, where she won the Pennsylvania state title for her weight class in freestyle. So we're really thrilled to have Unique moderating the panel for us. And then she'll be joined by Penn Gottfried, who is the youth director at Beat the Streets New York City. And so they will be in conversation with the amazing student athletes from Beat the Streets New York City. And then so that conversation will be about 30 to 40 minutes. And after they're done, I'll come back potentially with a question or two from the audience, and then we'll wrap up. So with that said, thank you all again for joining us. And Unique, I'm gonna hand it over to you and Penn and the great student athletes from Beat the Streets.
Thank you, Mario. As Mario stated, Penn is here to just elaborate on Beat the Streets. So I'll just hand it off to Penn so he can give you a little background.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, first up to us, thank you for having us. I think it's a really cool event to enable young people to kind of share in conversation and talk about various issues. A little bit about Beat the Streets for those of you who are tuning in who do not know. We are a nonprofit wrestling organization. We're Beat the Streets New York City, so we serve all 5 boroughs of New York City, but there are Beat the Streets all across the nation. And primarily when we were started about 15 years ago, our goal was to put a mat in every high school in New York City. And so normally, New York City is not a wrestling hotbed. You see wrestling hotbeds in rural areas across the nation, but not really in these more urban areas. And so our founders thought it was really important, and they learned a ton of life lessons through wrestling, persistence, determination, things like that, and thought it was really important that these urban areas have the sport of wrestling and have the opportunity to get on the mat. And so that was about 15 years ago when we started. There was about 30 total programs. And 15 years later, now we have about 150 between our middle school, our girls only program, as well as our co-ed program. So, that was the mission. We're growing. We are impacting these kids through the sport of wrestling, and we're having a great time doing it. So thank you for having us here, and I look forward to a great conversation.
Thank you, Penn. So I'll take this moment to allow our panel to introduce themselves. You'll just say your name, your grade or age, how long you've been wrestling, and what do you like about wrestling. Starting with Carlos.
Okay, my name is Carlos Guzman. I'm currently a junior, and wrestling has shaped the way that I, developed as a person, and it's given me a sense of, like charisma, and I'm really thankful for all that it's, taught me over the years. And I've been with Beat the Streets, I want to say around 5 to 6 years now.
Marvelous. And then Destiny.
Hi, my name is Destiny. I'm in 10th grade. What I like about wrestling is how it's very like competitive, and also like it's gave me like much like discipline. And I've been with Beat the Streets around like 4 or 5 years. Yeah.
Thank you. How about you, Vak?
Hi, my name is Vok. I've been wrestling for 5 years. What I like about Beat the Streets is like hard working. Yeah.
Thank you. And how about you, Sarah?
Hi, everyone. My name is Makan-Sira and I'm a senior here in the Bronx wrestling, and I've been a part of Beat the Streets for like 1 to 2 years now. And what I love about wrestling is the drive, the team culture, and diversity.
Thank you. I want to thank our panel for being here. I know it's not easy to publicly speak. Feel free to leave yourself unmuted. That way it's more of a discussion rather than Q&A. So I'll just hop right into our first question. Do you feel like you have the same amount of access to wrestling compared to other sports like basketball or football?
Well, I think that a lot of students, including myself in the beginning, didn't really have enough access to sports like wrestling. I really didn't know about it too much, and I was able to get into it because my uncle and my father, they kind of heard about it and they thought it would be a nice thing for me to do. As far as other sports, I mean, you hear about basketball all the time. They're very common sports. And I guess wrestling is very underrated in a way. So I guess that's why you don't hear about it as much. But I mean, once you get out there, you really begin to love it and progress.
I definitely agree with what Carlos said, because wrestling is very underrated. And once you're a part of the wrestling community, you become like family, and like most wrestlers know each other from tournaments, whether it's going to different practices, clinics, and stuff like that.
Yeah, I would say like it's very different, and like not you wouldn't really expect most kids in middle school to join wrestling because it's a very different sport than basketball and soccer and that stuff. But yeah, like as she said, like when you become a part of wrestling, like you become family, and it's easier to like talk.
Agree with all of them. To add that, like, growing up, you don't really hear much about wrestling here. You only hear about basketball and all that stuff. Yeah, it's not really accessible. Like when you're younger, all these kids out there, like they're wrestling since like they're little kids and stuff. I only heard about it when I just got into middle school.
I know for me, I personally did not hear about wrestling until my 11th grade year. Even though the wrestling program was in our school, you heard more about, let's say, football. Football, we had I guess you could say like a partnership with one of our other schools. So our football players actually went to one of our other combined schools to practice, play actual games. So they weren't physically in the building, and we heard more about them than any other programs that we had in our building. We didn't know we had a soccer team. I only knew about lacrosse because of my brother. So there was a lot of other sports that weren't advertised specifically in my school. So that's my experience with that. Do you feel girls and boys have the same opportunities in the sport of wrestling?
And
Yeah.
you can go.
Right. Yeah, I definitely think that, within the sport of wrestling, that there is, a good balance of male to female wrestling. Um, and I think it's, how do I put it? I just feel like overall we have a good balance. Like the men and the females, they're allowed to wrestle freestyle and folk style, and they're allowed to wrestle each other. So I definitely think that, there's definitely equality in that type of sense.
I would say I would kind of disagree because I feel like wrestling. Well, I feel like in schools like they should have wrestling for like all like everybody. Like usually in some schools there's only like you have to be on an all boys team, or you would like usually have to go down to Manhattan just to go to a practice or something. But yeah, I feel like that they should have a good like they should combine it because like wait watch.
Combined
Yeah,
team.
okay. With what Destiny has mentioned, yeah, here in the city, there's more opportunities for girls wrestling. But if you were to go like across the country and like upstate and stuff, most of the girls have to wrestle on boys' teams. There aren't many girls' opportunities up there for them. And they'll be wrestling in boy tournaments, section one, stuff like that. But yeah.
Any thoughts about? If not, that's fine.
Yeah, I agree with them.
Marvelous. I definitely agree with you all. For me, compared to now, when I originally wrestled, we didn't have a girls team, so it was a girl joining the boys team. I feel like now programs like Up to Us and YMP and Beat the Streets are doing a very good job in terms of giving girls a space to practice with other females. So now I feel like there is equal opportunity. When I originally wrestled, definitely not. So then our next question I'm going to ask, do you find there are certain sports that are less open to young men and women of color? Is wrestling one of those?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think like there are some sports that may, be susceptible to specific colors. I mean, like I personally haven't experienced that myself. So I wouldn't be able to tell you that, but I know definitely within wrestling, it's a sport for everybody. It's a sport that everybody can engage in at all different types of levels. So, I mean, like you said, in the sense of wrestling, I don't really think there's any difference if you're one color rather than another.
Yeah,
I
I agree
agree.
with that. I haven't felt any, I can't think of any personal anecdotes of me feeling race related issues going on. Anybody else like to comment?
I agree with Carlos.
Great. Everybody else feel the same way? Haven't felt any personal race related issues?
Yeah, I feel like regardless of your race, shape, size, color, your religion, anybody's accepted a part of anybody's accepted to wrestle. Like there's people like all types of people wrestle anywhere in the world. Yeah.
I agree. So I just want you to think of sports your friends in your neighborhood are playing. Do you think they play these specific sports because they don't know or have access to wrestling programs?
I would say no, because I feel like they know, but they would like usually say it's whack. Because usually when I would tell most of my friends that I wrestle, they would be like, "Ew, you wrestle? Like that's so whack." So I would just be like, "Yeah, like it's kind of different, and like it's also fun." And I would try and encourage them to try and join, but like I guess they would like stick to basketball and stuff.
Disagree because I would say like growing up like in the city where it's like the dominant sport is basketball. I would say like everyone is just supposed to play basketball. Like all you see on TV is basketball. Everywhere is basketball. So like they don't really get like a exposure to wrestling to like like even have the option to do wrestling.
Yeah, a lot of people stick to common sports that you see around in the neighborhood. My friends, besides the ones in school who I did wrestle with, the ones outside of school didn't really play sports. So whenever I mentioned, oh, I wrestled, they're like WWE. So I think that could be a reason why not too many people decide to join wrestling programs, because they have this one perception of what wrestling is. So how does Beat the Streets give you access to more wrestling opportunities?
Okay, so with Beat the Streets, there's so much opportunity like I would have never known of personally, because when you join Beat the Streets, whether you're an academy member or just you have a Beat the Streets membership, like they give you emails and reminders about like open clinics, places. They give you much opportunity. They talk to you, they inform you. Like I feel like with other sports, like such as basketball in my school, they don't get as much information and as many clinics as wrestling does. Like they really teach you about the sport on and off the mat. So like they're basically educating you. So yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I would say like it also keeps you busy. Like even going to trips like upstate, like even on a Saturday if you have nothing to do, like it just keeps you busy. And it's also like keeping you like fit and having fun at the same time.
Yeah, I agree. Also, keep us informed because we go to trips to colleges and stuff. We get to like understand like the college way, working out 3 times a day and stuff. Like, yeah.
Yeah. I agree with what everybody said there. You know, Beat the Streets, I literally hear from them nearly every day. There's always something going on. There's always a practice you should be going to. There's always a SAT prep or some type of, you know, opportunity that they offer. So I think they do a very great job of keeping us informed of the stuff that they're offering and, you know, when they might have it. And it kind of allows you to build your schedule in a way, which is something that I think is really important, you know, especially being in high school now. So, yeah.
And Unique, I swear I didn't pay them to say any of that, all right? They said that all on their own. I swear to you.
I love it. I completely agree. I had the same experience. There was SAT prep. There was, you know, the mentoring aspect to Beat the Streets, trips, events that I probably would have never even thought were events in different states. I traveled so much because of Beat the Streets. So I feel like they definitely gave me a lot of access to different opportunities. So my next question is, where do you see wrestling taking you in life? Do you plan to go to college with a wrestling scholarship? What's our future plans?
Yeah, I do see myself wrestling in college, but like I said, like I wanna be an architect. So when I go to college, that's something that I wanna focus on. But I also wanna like try and combine it with wrestling and try and put like work into being an architecture and wrestling. So yeah.
Yeah, I do see wrestling taking me to college. Like, I want to focus on wrestling. Obviously, I gotta worry about the academic part, and I will work on that. But I do see wrestling taking me to college, and I will focus on wrestling.
Great. Anybody else?
Okay. Oh yeah. Okay, so with wrestling, I feel like regardless if I like plan to wrestle in college, which I do want to do, but like if you're a wrestler or if you ever been a wrestler, I feel like wrestling becomes a part of you. Like whether you're like whether like I'm sorry, like whether you choose to wrestle in college or not, you always have the lessons you learn from wrestling, the losses, the wins, you take them all with you. And basically, yeah, I would love to go on a scholarship to college. And yeah, and you always have to remember that you're a student before you're athlete. So you weigh your opportunities and your choices.
Yeah. I agree. I think she said that very well. Personally, I do want to go and wrestle in college. I mean, like you said before, I was able to travel all around the country and visit a whole bunch of different schools and programs through Beat the Streets. So it's definitely something that I'm looking forward to.
Cool. Do you think scholarships are accessible to inner city athletes?
Yeah, definitely. Especially with being a part of Beat the Streets, you gain a lot of exposure to the colleges, whether it's with Wrestle with the Girl, I mean, Wrestle Like a Girl, or like just through college opportunities, them taking you to colleges, them bringing colleges to tournaments and stuff. You're basically around everything. And the alumni from Beat the Streets, we're always speaking with them, keeping in contact, talking with the coaches and stuff like that.
Yeah, I agree with Sierra. Yeah, pretty much like when we go on trips to colleges, I feel like they're giving us a bigger experience than most kids would get. And it's like a oh my gosh, I don't know how to explain it. But yeah, pretty much I agree. I'm not.
Take your time.
Yeah, I agree with them.
Yeah, I definitely think that, like Sierra said, like with all the exposure that we've received, all the colleges that we've visited, we definitely have a chance, in getting that, excuse me, a full ride maybe, or some type of, money to go to college. I mean, but if not, that there's a school for everybody, there's a team for everybody. It all depends on what you want to do and how you want to see that through.
I love it. The more tournaments you go to, the more you get your name out there, the more likely you'll get a scholarship. So, if there was anything you could change about wrestling, what would you change? Let's start with Carlos.
Um, you know, Wrestling is great sport, and the only thing I would really change, and it all goes back to what we were talking about earlier about access. There aren't too many kids who have the privilege to do what we do. They don't have the opportunity to travel with the team, go visit other colleges, compete in the sport that they like to. So I think just having wrestling, being put out there maybe to the kids that, you know, may be on the edge about it or may think that it's WWE, which it's not. Um, I think just showing them what the sport has to offer and allowing them to buy into it.
How about
Yeah,
you, Jeff?
yeah, I agree with Carlos. I would probably change that they should put wrestling into more schools and like give out more information than just like kids thinking it's WWE. I feel like they should give out more information and put it into more schools.
I completely agree. How about you, Bach?
Uh, One thing I'll probably change in wrestling is probably the popularity of wrestling, because like everyone knows basketball, but not everyone knows wrestling. So I'll probably choose popularity. A lot more people should know wrestling. It's a great sport. And it's very underrated.
Sarah, any additional thoughts?
Yeah, they basically touched up on everything, and I'll change how wrestling is advertised, like the actual wrestling compared to WWE, like more advertisements of the USA Wrestling, Fargo, and all of those stuffs, and the real wrestling bit, pretty much.
I completely agree. I feel like if we advertised and made it more accessible, then wrestling programs would definitely be a lot bigger and probably be in more schools. If I could change one thing, I would change kind of like the policies in terms of like if political views or religion or like physical appearance, as long as it's not hindering performance, if those are a factor, I feel like they shouldn't be. Um, it's the way wrestlers perform is all that matters. Gender shouldn't matter as well. This leads me to my next question. There was a story not too long ago about a wrestler named Andrew Johnson. He was given an ultimatum by a white referee who said he was going by the rules in the book. That's possibly true. So he basically had to either cut his dreads or forfeit his match, which I believe was like a championship match. So do you think that's fair? Females haven't had to cut their hair in terms of wrestling. So is it fair that guys might have to in order to wrestle?
No, because I feel like there's ways that they can. I feel like there's ways that they can like catch it up, or like I guess like that's okay. That's also another reason why headgear is used for wrestling. But yeah, I just feel like it's like, yeah, no, they shouldn't have to.
Yeah. I heard about that story. And I think you're right. I think some of these policies that we have within wrestling maybe, need to be amended in a way. But from my experience, a lot of kids on my team, they have like that long hair look. So a lot of them, like Destiny said, wear the headgear or wear a hair cover. And a lot of times I know your hair has to be a certain length, so it's not in the opponent's face. So I think just fixing up on some of those policies, I think obviously it would be, a disadvantage to another wrestler if their hair was like really long. But I think if you have it all wrapped up, and you should be fine.
To touch on, yeah, to touch on what they said, I totally think it wasn't fair. Like, no one should have to cut their hair off just to wrestle a championship match, to be exact. And like me, for example, I'm a Muslim girl. So if I was told to take off my hijab, I wouldn't feel comfortable wanting to proceed in the wrestling because, yes, my religion does come first before sports. And it's like like Carlos said, some of the rules should be fixed around just due to like your gender, your hair and stuff, or your like religion, just so the rules should be amended or fixed around.
Yeah, I agree. It wasn't fair. He shouldn't have cut his hair. He could have wrestled.
As I stated before, I feel like if it's not in the way of the opponent, then it shouldn't really matter. They have caps and which connect to your headgear, which I used to wear all the time. I've never had anybody say anything about my hair. So I just felt like that should be fixed in terms of like gender differences. Yes, guys have hair, females have hair. At the end of the day, it's hair. We're all humans. We shouldn't have to change who we are in order to do something, play a sport or to wrestle. So the next question is specifically for me and Sira and Destiny. What has been your experience as a wrestler?
So far mine been pretty good, but in 6th grade I would say it was a little rough because being it was just me and another girl at that time, it was kind of rough because the boys, they would like kind of like like kind of say things, and it was a time where when they said something like we wanted to quit, but I guess like after we talked to our moms and stuff, like they just said like to keep going and don't worry about it. But yeah, like now I would say it's pretty good because my team is kind of mixed, so I would say it's pretty good now.
How about you, Sira?
Yeah, I definitely agree with what Destiny had to say. My experience has been great overall with the coaching, my teammates, and everyone. But sometimes, people are always going to have their opinions. You're a boy if you think you're gonna wrestle, like, oh my God, you're doing WWE, you're about to be slamming people and stuff like that. But that's not what wrestling's about, and it only matters what you think at the end of the day. So yeah, wrestling has been great. It taught me many life lessons that I still carry on, like every single day whenever I do anything, and like wrestling is like pretty much instilled in me. So yeah, it's been a great experience overall.
I completely agree. I had a pretty good wrestling experience as well. My teammates were also my classmates. They were very supportive. If I lost a match, they gave me constructive criticism. They helped me on the mat. If I won a match, they cheered me on. Something I always hated was the compliment, "Oh, you wrestle well for a girl." I've always hated that because I feel like it's a compliment, but then you're belittling me as a wrestler in general. I don't know if you two can relate. If somebody's ever said that to you, how did that make you feel?
Yeah, like, oh, okay, sorry, you can go ahead.
Okay, yeah, I would agree. I would think that like it's kind of like I can't find the word, but I would say like I don't feel like that as well because I feel like it's pretty much like you're saying like some girls can't wrestle or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, like they both said, it's sort of like a sneak diss. Like you really actually have something to say about girls wrestling. Like why can't a girl just be a wrestler and win her match the same way a boy can?
Yep. Now, for my two guys, how do you feel wrestling against girls? Let's start with Carlos.
I'll start off. Yeah. I personally do not have a problem wrestling with girls. I think it's a really cool thing to have the girls wrestle with the guys in like a co-ed type of thing. Um, I will say that sometimes it's a little difficult because I find in a way, when you're wrestling a boy, sometimes they're a lot stronger than the girl might be, or they might be, a little too rough. But personally, like I've said, I've wrestled girls and I really haven't had a problem. I don't treat them any differently in a way. But I will say that sometimes I like wrestle, not to go out there to be, difficult in a way. I'll go out there and wrestle the guy and try to pin him right away and put him in all these different moves. But in a girl, I'll take my time, work the pace a little bit and do things like that.
I agree. I don't really have a problem wrestling a girl, but I barely wrestle a girl. I go to all boys school and I wrestle in the boys league. So like when I do wrestle a girl, probably try to like practice or something, but I don't really have a problem wrestling a girl. It's all the same.
Have you two been scrutinized by your team for winning matches against girls? Have they been like, "Oh, you only won because it was a girl," or "Oh, you beat a girl"? Like, has that been a thing for y'all?
No, I would say losing to a girl probably
Okay.
would cause that effect, but I wouldn't say.
Yeah, I agree with Vak. I don't think nobody's ever really told me, like you only won because she's a girl or anything like that. I think like if you're a very good wrestler, then you obviously know you won because of that, and otherwise, it shouldn't be. It doesn't really matter in a way.
Cool. So, in the wake of the Black Lives Movement and the murder of George Floyd, what do you think prominent figures in the wrestling world should be doing? What do you think? What do you think? Just basically, what do you think they should be doing? So, anybody of color who are like us, how do you feel like they should be reacting or advertising or encouraging other young wrestlers in the wrestling world?
I feel like they should be educating people that don't know much about the topic. They should be spreading information that is true to people that don't know much about it or do know much about it but don't want to listen to the other side. So like, yeah, someone that will listen to them.
Yes, definitely educating everybody, especially who are wrestlers. How about you, Sierra?
Yeah, like what he said, with all the crisis of the Black Lives Matter movement going on, whether you're a public figure or not, I feel like you should be bringing awareness to what is going on in our country and the bigger problem and stuff like that. we should be talking about all the problems with race and systematic racism, and it should just be known and brought to the light.
Yeah, I agree. And I would also say, to add on to her, I would also say like how people would like start riots and stuff. I would say like it's not like I disagree with the fact that it's not a good way to like get your point across, or like it's not gonna change anything. It's just gonna like kind of make a bigger problem, and like it's just something to add on to like the bad stuff or whatever.
Okay. How about you, Vok?
All
Any thoughts? No.
Yeah, I think Carlos, did you have anything to add?
No, I mean, I pretty much agree with everything that's been said. I definitely think that this is one of the bigger issues that that's still going on today, and like everyone said, just bringing awareness to the issue, because if we don't, it's gonna keep on happening. And I think we had some of these discussions within Beat the Streets. We don't condone any type of any systemic racism. Everybody's treated equally. Everybody's together. Everybody's a team. So I think that it's definitely something that needs to be brought up, and I feel that a lot of people aren't really educated on the matter. So definitely that.
I completely agree. I feel like spreading awareness and educating everyone can help to decrease half of the, probably not even half, but just spreading awareness and educating everyone to the issues that are happening could help to eliminate some that are especially in sports. Yeah, education is key. So let me ask you, what made you join wrestling? Let's start with Carlos.
Um, you know, at first I was, very skeptical about wrestling. I thought, as soon as I would go in there that I would get hurt or anything like that. But my father and my uncle and my brother, they all convinced me. They they thought that it would be a good sport for me to, to shape myself in a way um, as a person, and I think that's what it's done for me. I've gotten so many lessons out of wrestling. Physically, I physically was able to develop myself and mentally. Um, so yeah, I think just the people around me convinced me to do it, and I got into it, and I'm still doing it. So that says a lot about the sport.
Yeah, I agree. At first, I didn't want to like join because I had the thought of like WWE and getting slammed and stuff. But like my coach, he was also my ELA teacher, so I guess like he wanted me to join. And at first, like I really wanted to quit after the running stairs and the running in back and forth. Like I just couldn't take it. So eventually, like my mom, she told me to stay, so I got used to it, and then yeah, here I am.
I agree. When I first started wrestling, I had no idea what it is. It was just me and my teammates with a whole bunch of energy, we were little kids jumping around. So we didn't really know what it is. So and then we just got used to it, and then we ended up loving the sport, so we stayed with it.
Yeah, for my story, it's kind of different because when I was in middle school, I wanted to wrestle because Beat the Streets New York was a part of my school at the time. And then I guess it got shut down. While I wanted to wrestle, my mom was like, no, I couldn't wrestle and stuff like that. And then I became a freshman in high school after basketball season because I used to play basketball at first. And then like my teammates now were like, oh, you should join wrestling. We need you. You should come. It's so fun. And I was like, you know what? Yeah, it's something different. Nobody wrestles. So I wanted to do wrestling. And then I stopped playing basketball and then I started paying my full attention to wrestling. And I do not regret anything about it. It was really amazing.
I have a very similar story to you, so I'll actually just tell you how I actually got into wrestling. So, one, my mom did not want me to. Um, I'm the only girl out of 5 boys, and she's very protective over me. So she's like, it's WWE, and I don't want you to get injured. And secondly, I hate being told I can't do anything. So my mom telling me no made me want to do it more. So so like I said, my classmates were basically the team. They encouraged me to participate in wrestling. They said I was very competitive, I should join. So I initially started out as our school's manager. I would go to practices, games, tournaments. I was very dedicated. And then one day I just told my mom, I'm going to wrestle. And I ran out the house because I didn't want to get beat up. And then I eventually got her to come to one of my tournaments, and it changed her whole perception, and she was okay with me wrestling after that. And then after that, I mean, having her approval and then just the joy for the sport, I mean, pushed me to continue to participate. And then I'll let this be our last question before I open it up to all the questions in the box. What have you learned from wrestling? How have you applied this lesson to your actual life?
Yeah, I would say it's taught me to not give up and to keep trying no matter what happens. Like even after you get hurt or somebody says something bad about you and you don't like it, just to keep ignoring it and do what you do best.
I would say goal setting, because like in wrestling we have goals like city champ, state champ, all that. I would say like that ties over to like real life and stuff. So they got goals to get a high grade or something in school. Yeah.
Sierra?
Okay, so pretty much I learned that it's okay. It's okay to learn to accept that you lost sometimes. You're not gonna win everything. And that also, as long as you know you went into the match, that you put in your all, you practice your all, and you gave it your all, you gave it your best shot, and know that sometimes you're just not gonna win. And yeah, and you carry the loss as a lesson.
Yeah. Excuse me. Sierra pretty much hit the nail on the head there. I think knowing how to take a loss, you know, either within wrestling or just in general in life, knowing how to work through that and build on top of that is something really important. And I think it's something that I'm going to use for the rest of my life. So I'm glad I did the sport, and I'm taking all these lessons as I go on. So yeah, that's pretty much it right there.
I love it. For me, I think a real important lesson I learned was being comfortable in an uncomfortable situation. When I initially started wrestling, of course, it's uncomfortable wrestling against the boys. And then, I mean, some of the moves are a little awkward and uncomfortable. But, you know, the more you go and you participate, the more comfortable you get in your uncomfortable situation. In terms of life, I'm very uncomfortable speaking in public, just, you know, being the center of attention. So this was my opportunity to face my discomfort. And I appreciate all of you for helping me to face my discomfort. And I want to thank you all for being panelists with me and giving me the opportunity to moderate this conversation. I think we have, 13 minutes. That gives us time to answer questions in the chat now.
Yeah, thanks, Unique. Well, for someone who doesn't like to do public speaking, you did an amazing job. So thank you, as did every single one of you. Just really incredible. Thank you so much, really, each one of you for taking the time to do this and to sort of share your thoughts and your views on some of these issues. We really appreciate it. I know everybody who's online watching alongside us feels the same way. So, and proof of that is that we have just a lot of questions for all of you, which means folks are paying attention. So we have, I think we have a little time for a few. Jacqueline, jump in if we're running out of time. But so let me get to one question here for the young women on the panel. And the question is, what's been the biggest challenge in educating people that women and girls can and do wrestle? Who wants to take that first? Destiny, do you want to take it first?
Yeah.
If
Okay.
you want me to repeat it.
Okay. So I would say my biggest challenge was pretty much getting girls into wrestling, because they would, when I would like try and explain it, they would be like, no, I don't want to get slammed. I don't want to do, I'm not really into that. But I would like, and I would even like show them videos of how it really is. And I would say like, maybe like you should stay after school one time with me and just like try and like see what it's about.
Great.
Yeah, definitely what she said. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, sir.
Oh, yeah, definitely what she said. Just letting other girls know that it's okay to do what boys can do too. Anybody can wrestle. And like the hardest part was like people thinking that it was a boy sport. Like, and I just felt like that bring me down sometimes, because like I feel like anyone can wrestle and you can do whatever you can do whatever a boy can do.
Indeed. And I'm sorry, go ahead, Unique.
I agree. I don't feel like I've had too many challenges like getting people or other females into the sport. I feel like they either want to or they, aren't, or they just don't. I definitely think just educating them, maybe encouraging them to, even if they don't practice, to just watch one. To give them the awareness of that it's not WWE, and if they like it, to go from there.
Great. Well, thank you all of you for sharing your thoughts on that question. So I have a question for the young men on the panel. And I think we kind of addressed a little of this before, but has wrestling with girls, I know we talked, well, let me say the question and then we can go from there. Has wrestling with girls changed your perspective on girls' abilities in sports in general? And have you had to challenge other peers, other young men, about their views about girls in sports, or more specifically in wrestling? Carlos, you want to take that first?
Yeah, sure. So, personally, when I first started out at wrestling, I didn't know that females, did wrestle or were allowed to wrestle. And over the years, I've kind of seen it develop, whereas more women are, wrestling more often. So I think it definitely has changed the way that I look at the sport, in terms of, letting other people know that, hey, women are wrestling, they're doing very good, they're kicking butt, taking names out there. It's been, surprising and shocking to me that a lot of people don't see it that way. A lot of people that I've spoken to, are like, oh no, women's wrestling is underrated, or, they have it easy for them when they go to these Fargo tournaments because they aren't as hard, or they're not competing at the same level. And I tell them, sometimes, that's not true at all. So I definitely think that a lot of people, have their own view of wrestling. I mean, that's not the way that I may see it or somebody else may, but I think that that's the actuality of what's going on.
Yeah, I agree with Carlos. I like to add on, like, everything that a man could do, woman could do too. So, like, yeah, they put in the same hard work that a man does. Yeah.
That's great. I don't know, Penn, do you have any thoughts on this subject?
Yeah, I mean, it was very, very different, I think, even when I was wrestling. So, I'm showing my age right here, but I graduated in college in 2015. So you guys can do the math on that one. But I, when I was wrestling in high school, there were not many women wrestling. And I, to be honest, I didn't know what I thought of it, and I probably did not have the same thoughts that you guys had. And so women's wrestling has definitely skyrocketed of recently and of late, and I think it's really cool. In New York City, we actually have a girls only league that with women's wrestling, the wrestling freestyle in the spring. So I think just opportunities like that are going to continue to grow, and I think the attitudes of these young men on this call too, of just open arms embracing and just really pushing it forward is really cool to see.
Penn, thank you for that. You graduated college when? 2015?
2015, yep.
Yeah. Try 1987. There's a short age. Anyway, thanks for that. All right, let's get sort of a question for all of you. I think I'm still good on time. We'll have Jacqueline will give me the hook if we need to get off. We could go on forever because this is so interesting. So do any of you participate in other sports in addition to wrestling? Who wants to take that first? Sierra, go ahead.
Okay. So before like wrestling started, from the time I wanted to wrestle in middle school, I used to play basketball from the 5th grade all the way up towards the 10th grade. And then I decided to give my full commitment to wrestling because, training for 2 different sports can get your body messed up. Like I learned the hard way. So yeah.
Okay. Vak, you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, I don't play any other sports. I suppose I'll probably play basketball for fun and gym sports. That's about it.
Okay. How about you, Destiny?
I would say no. Wait, the question was wait, can you repeat the question again?
Yeah, do you participate in any other sports other than wrestling? Or you just focused on wrestling?
Yeah, pretty much I've been focused on wrestling. I haven't did any other sport, but I would say that I do do dance a little on the side, but otherwise I just do wrestling.
Okay. Carlos, how about you?
In the beginning when I started wrestling and I was getting into it a little more, I tried, doing basketball and baseball, and track at the same time, over the years. And I realized that, wrestling is sort of like a demanding sport. You'd have a tournament on Saturday, you'll have practice nearly every day, sometimes 2 practices a day. And I think it was us, excuse me,
It's New York, Carlos. It's okay. Yeah. We all have it.
Right. So I think, hold on. All right. I think that, like I said, wrestling is a demanding sport, and having 2 practices a day is something that I needed to do. I felt like I needed to commit to wrestling, and that I couldn't really, spend time on those other sports because I was enjoying wrestling so much. So I think, that basically answers the question.
Yeah, no, thank you. It does sound like, I think that's happening a lot. More and more people are kind of specializing in a sport, and in part, I guess to get better and better at it. There's a fair amount of time, not to say anything about schoolwork and all the other demands that you guys have on you. So that's interesting. So this question is somewhat related then, which is how long would you like to wrestle for? What are your expectations on that? How long would you like to wrestle for? Sierra, you want to take that?
Okay, so I would like to wrestle all the way up until college and see wherever it takes me, but I'll still be like a part of my wrestling community, going back to my school, making sure girls are still wrestling, going up to my clubs and making sure girls are always girls in the wrestling are always growing and coming up, and making sure there's girl programs across the city and across the state.
I'll say that I don't really have a goal to end. Whenever it ends, I guess it will just happen.
Okay. How about you, Destiny?
Can you repeat the question one more time? Sorry, they was talking, I couldn't hear you.
Yeah, no. How long would you like to wrestle for?
I would say throughout my whole year of college, because then after that, that's when I'm gonna start focusing on more of my major thing that I want to do in life. Yeah, even maybe after college I might still wrestle. Like I might still like actually I want to also like become like a mentor or something, like to like work with kids younger than me, like for wrestling.
Okay, great.
You know, wrestling is I feel like I won't be wrestling all my life, you know, but definitely I want to wrestle up into college, and if I'm doing very well, I'll continue. But I feel like it's gonna be up to college, and then after that, I'm definitely gonna come back to the wrestling community, maybe do some mentorship work, like Destiny said, come back, help out Beat the Streets if I can, and just doing things like that. So I'll always be involved in wrestling. Maybe I'll hop off the mat when I get a little older and find a good job and settle down, but I think that's about it.
Okay, well, Destiny, I don't know if we lost you. You're kind of off camera there. Come on back. We're almost we're almost done. But I just wanted to, because I want to thank you, Destiny, and I want to thank really all of you, Sierra and Vak and Carlos. You did an amazing job. Unique, thank you for moderating, and Penn, thank you for your support and all the work that you all are doing at Beat the Streets, New York, and really just an amazing job. Thank you for taking the time to do this with us. There were so many other questions. Maybe we need to do this again. I don't know. Penn shaking
Yeah.
his head, so we'll see. We'll see, but it was really just incredible to be able to share this, and spend this time with all of you. For those of you who are on and still watching, we're sharing some additional information about Beat the Streets in our chat. Specifically, Penn, I think you have a conversation that's coming up on Wednesday about the crisis in youth sports, and so we encourage everyone to tune into that. We'll share it also on our social media, and then Up to Us Sports hopes to have another Young Voices episode in December, and on December 10th, we're going to have another conversation around this topic called sports, social justice, and the power of sports, and we're going to have a number of professional athletes, coaches, executives in the sports field, leaders in the sports field, in addition to youth sports coaches talking about many of these issues. So we encourage all of you to join that. And with that, I just want to say thank you again. Really just an incredible job. And please, all of you, stay safe and healthy and have a safe and wonderful holiday coming up in Thanksgiving. And keep on wrestling. And until we meet again.